DKDB Nashville.
Hello, friends. It's your buddy Lou Pickney with you here with a DKDB update. March 3rd, 2026. I go through a couple of mock drafts here during the course of this update. A bunch of new ones came in. I'll be reacting to Cody Williams of Fansided and Jordan Reid of ESPN. I put the best of the best in the DKDB. It's my human-curated, expert-curated 2026 NFL mock draft database. No AI, no tandem efforts, no committees. Just the best analysts from major websites and top independents. There's a whole bunch in there. You click on a name, it takes you right to the very latest mock draft from that particular analyst. A couple of news items to talk about. First, Kyler Murray will be released by the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is hardly a surprise. I've heard for months and months that Murray's contract made it where it was going to be very difficult to trade him, borderline untenable between salary cap ramifications and whatever hit a new team involved would be taking on. So even if they could possibly do it with the numbers, trying to find an interested partner proved perhaps too difficult. So it hasn't happened yet because they have to wait for the start of the new league here. All this has to do with the salary cap. So Kyler Murray be released after 7 seasons in Arizona. Report here on NFL.com. So we'll see where Murray ends up. There are clearly some teams that could use a new quarterback, and this is not exactly a bumper crop as far as quarterback prospects go in the NFL draft. But then the question is, well, if it didn't work for Murray in Arizona, why would it work for another team elsewhere? There's one bit of news. The other, an interesting decision by the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think this will have a direct impact on that number 10 overall selection in the draft that Cincinnati has, because they're not going to be franchise tagging edge rusher, defensive end, Trey Hendrickson. That had been the expectation. I thought there was a certain inevitability, because this has been going on for a long time now. But as noted here on NFL.com, Trey Hendrickson heading to the open market. If they would have tagged him, here's the thing, if they would use that franchise tag on him, that would have cost Cincinnati nearly $24.5 million for one season. After 5 years, Hendrickson will be a highly sought-after free agent. So Hendrickson out from Cincinnati, not being franchise tagged. Kyler Murray to be released by Arizona. Those are the two big news stories of the day out of the NFL. We'll go ahead now and have a reaction. Again, I put the best of the best here in the DKDB. There are all sorts of new mocks that have come out after NFL Combine. I anticipate I'll have my latest mock draft coming later this week. Be calling a men's lacrosse game tomorrow up at Swanee, so I don't want to get short-spaced on time. But perhaps Thursday of this week we'll have that. So let's get my reactions here to first Cody Williams from Fansided. I encourage you to go and read these various mock drafts for yourself. There's some valuable information in there. I'll have the links to these respective mock drafts in the description of the YouTube video. So Cody Williams from Fansided at number 1 has Fernando Mendoza, quarterback Indiana, to the Raiders. Practically everybody's going to have that. If they don't, that's probably a sign you've got a questionable source or somebody that really has a major scoop, but it's probably the former and not the latter. So Mendoza to the Raiders at 1, Arvell Reese to the Jets at 2, I don't think the Jets have necessarily decided yet, but the anticipation is they're going to get one of the top edge rushers there. Whether it's a unique player like Reese that's a hybrid linebacker/edge, or someone else. Number 3, so a trade that is mocked here with the Washington Commanders moving up from number 7 to number 3 to take Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles. That would be quite the move if that happened. Styles started his career in Columbus, Ohio as a safety, transitioned to linebacker. He could really play both. He had a tremendous showing at the NFL Combine. One of the freaks of the Combine this year, notes this description right here. It's my reaction to the latest mock draft from Cody Williams, a fan cited. At 4, the Tennessee Titans get Texas Tech edge David Bailey. I strongly suspect the Titans will go edge rusher here at 4. Perhaps they would consider Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. We'll see. A lot of evaluation that'll have to be done for the Titans. We'll see what happens in free agency. I don't think the Titans will go after a receiver here at 4, based on what I've heard about their plans for free agency and targeting at least one top-tier wide receiver. At 5, Francis Mauigoa to the New York Giants. Mauigoa, very successful right offensive tackle. The Giants go with an O-line. Quite the block right there. Mauigoa leading the way. That's what Cody Williams of Fansided has here at 5. At 6, Monroe Freeling to the Browns. Quite a lot of talk about Freeling coming out of the Combine, or the breakouts as far as offensive line prospects. He was already talked about as a late first. But Cody's not alone in saying this, that Freeling could go possibly not just top 10, but number 6 overall to Cleveland. What does Cleveland think about Utah offensive tackle Spencer Fano? We'll find out soon enough. At 7. So this is part of that projected trade that Cody had, I think. Kansas City has the 9 pick in real life. So here the Chiefs trade to 7 and get Miami edge rusher Reuben Bain Jr. Now the Chiefs are going to have a few different options at 9 or at 7 if they trade up, I suppose. They're going to have to make some tough decisions relative to the salary cap. Edge rusher could be a need for them. So here is the Chiefs going with Reuben Bain Jr. for Miami. Edge rusher going to the Chiefs at 7. At 8, the New Orleans Saints get Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State. He's got that remarkable ability to get open in 3 seconds or less. Tremendous hands. He just doesn't drop passes. Adding that kind of a reliable target for Tyler Shuck in that Saints offense could be the move. At 8. At 9, the Arizona Cardinals trade back and get Jeremiah Love at number 9. That would be a bold move, because I think Love to the Cardinals is a distinct possibility, especially after that tremendous showing at the Combine. But even before then, Love was a known commodity. He was seen as by far the top running back prospect in this class. Like, he could be the only first-round running back taken, and he could go number 3 overall. Just a unique player. He's a really good receiver out of the backfield, and that, I think, is the most important element, something that people will not necessarily realize offhand. But look, if you're not a good receiver as a running back, you're just not going to go in the first round. It's just not going to happen. Or you've got to have some other really, truly remarkable traits. Anyway, Love to the Cards. If the Cards can trade from 3 to 9 and still get Jeremiah Love, then that's a big win for Arizona if they can pull it off. We'll see. Number 10. Speaking of big wins, Caleb Downs still on the board. The safety from Ohio State going to the Bengals at 10. At 11, Mansour Delane, LSU corner, transfer from Virginia Tech, who had a great 2025 season in Baton Rouge. He would fill a major need for the Dolphins. So I like that a lot. If he's on the board, Delane to the Dolphins at 11. Number 12, Cody Williams of Fansided says, Dylan Thiedemann to the Cowboys. Well, I think if the Cowboys want to get that hard-hitting safety out of Oregon, they can't just wait for number 20. Not with Minnesota there at number 18 with a glaring need at safety. So here, Cody says Dylan to the Cowboys at 12. At 13, Jermod McCoy, cornerback, Tennessee, going to the Rams. The Rams also have a pick at number 29. The thought is they would likely target either a receiver or a corner here. Maybe an offensive lineman. But here is Jermod McCoy. Still waiting on McCoy to have that 40-yard dash time. They say he's recovered and he's good to go. He had a torn ACL and one of his knees in January of last year. So here he goes to the Rams at 13. At 14, Jordan Tyson to the Baltimore Ravens. Tyson, when he's healthy, just a tremendous dynamic playmaker, a real difference maker. And watch the Arizona State-Texas Tech game from last year. If you want to see Jordan Tyson against the top-notch defense, showing what he can really do against some high-end competition. Here the Ravens get him at 14. It's my reaction to the latest mock draft from Cody Williams of Fansided. At 15, the Buccaneers go with linebacker C.J. Allen out of Georgia. Thinking about Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. So if Allen, an off-ball linebacker, goes to the Bucs at 15, that would fill a linebacker need. Yeah, I see that G on my helmet there, Lou, for Georgia. Allen, great career with the Bulldogs, going to the Bucs at 15. At 16, Caleb Banks to the Jets, which is interesting. The Jets have a need at defensive tackle. Remember, they traded Quinnen Williams last year. So here's the Jets going with Banks, who only played in 2 games last season because of injury. Some people think Banks will go mid-first, and some are like, nah, he's day 2. So we'll see. At 17, Spencer Fano slides a bit, but a nice pickup here for Detroit for one of the top offensive tackles in this class. I heard talk, you're talking about a lot of teams and a lot of different things, but I've heard talk of the Lions very seriously considering offensive tackle here at 17. They get Fano, that's a nice pickup. At 18, Avion Terrell to Minnesota. And while if Harrison Smith retires, then yes, that creates a need at safety. Terrell, one of the top corner prospects, solid player out of Clemson. 19, Kenyon Sadiq, who had that incredible 40-yard dash time at the Combine. The top tight end on essentially every list that I've seen of any credibility. Sadiq, just a tremendous playmaker. And look at that 40 time. 4.39. He ran a sub 4.40 for a guy that weighs 241 pounds. Be a nice pickup if he's there for Carolina. I don't think it's a guarantee he'll be there. At 20, Akeem Mesidor to the Cowboys. Deal with Mesidor. He'll turn 25 before the draft. Is old for an NFL draft prospect. The Cowboys really like him. He had a very good season for the Hurricanes. Lined up opposite Reuben Bain Jr. That's what Cody Williams of Fansided has here at 20. At 21, Mekhi Lemon. Still on the board, going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needs a top wide receiver prospect. These are a nice pickup for the Steelers. One of my favorite team and player matchups. I've talked about this many times. Venga Ioane, offensive guard, Penn State. Venga, one of the top interior offensive linemen in this draft. It's a big need position for the Chargers. So I think it makes all the sense in the world if Venga's on the board and he'd go to the LA Chargers at 22. At 23, Cody Williams says Keldrick Falk, edge rusher, Auburn, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles have several different needs. It would be interesting if Mesidor went before Falk. But opinions, as always, will vary with the different edge prospects. 24, Cleveland Browns. So the Browns go with an offensive lineman up at number 6, Monroe Freeling or otherwise. They come back at 24. And there's Denzel Boston, 6'4". He's got the size. Had a very good career at the University of Washington. Not super athletic, but still he's fast. Good playmaker. A matchup challenge for opposing teams. A 25. Get to stay still there. Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson. Woods weighed in under 300 pounds, which is unexpected. And the question is, how are you going to utilize Woods? He's a tremendous pass rusher as an interior defensive lineman, and you just don't run across that very much. If you believe that you're going to still be strong enough against the run, even with a sub 300-pound interior defensive lineman, then perhaps Woods is the move. The Bears are expected to go with either O-line or D-line. They've got a ton of different possibilities and projections, but here's Peter Woods to Chicago at 25. At 26, Buffalo Bills, TJ Parker, edge rusher, Clemson. Tremendous talent. And like a lot of Clemson's defenders last year, had a down season, but he had a really good showing down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl practices. He should go round one here. He's still on the board for Buffalo at 26, and so Parker to the Bills. At 27, Cody Williams says Omar Cooper Jr., receiver to the 49ers. The Niners need a receiver, that's for sure. Anticipation, Brandon Ayuk won't be back for the 2026 campaign, so here the Niners get Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. At 28, Houston Texans, Caden Proctor. Very interesting. Proctor, massive man, and yet athletic enough where he could still play guard at the NFL level. The Texans could use him in a couple of different spots potentially. That could work out well if that's the move at 28. At 29, Max Ihenaker, offensive tackle, Arizona State, relative newcomer to the sport. Didn't start playing until after the pandemic, 2021. But he really impressed people. NFL Combine. There are some people that say, no, he's more a day two prospect, and there's some like, well, keep an eye on him for late round one. And here's the Rams going with Ihenaker at 29. At 30, Eli Stowers, Denver Broncos. Now, there's been talk that Denver wanted a tight end here. Some people have projected maybe Kenyon Sadiq. I don't think that's realistic after Sadiq's tremendous showing at the Combine. Eli Stowers, really talented player for Vanderbilt. Had one of its best seasons ever last year. So it'll be interesting to see how talk goes with any potential tight ends that aren't Sadiq. And perhaps it will be Eli Stowers going to the Denver Broncos at 30. 31, Zion Young from Missouri, edge rusher, New England Patriots. Patriots have a few different options here at 31. Some think edge rusher is the move, and perhaps it'll be Mizzou's Zion Young. Finally at 32, Seattle Seahawks, Brandon Cisse. And to see these certain teams and players matched up quite a bit. Quarter is expected to be a need position for the Seahawks, who are going to lose some players in free agency. That's what happens. You win a Super Bowl, and your free agents tend to get targeted with big money deals. And there's only so much you can do with a salary cap. So it's Cisse to the Seattle Seahawks, number 32. So that's my reaction. Oop. Just click. There we go. My reaction to the latest mock draft from Cody Williams. Now let's have the latest from Jordan Reid of ESPN. Haven't heard from Jordan in a while. Of my reaction here. Yeah, it's set to not autoplay. That's by design. That's a design feature, not a flaw. So Jordan Reid, number 1, Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana, of course, to the Raiders. That's all but a lock. At 2, Arvell Reese, to Ohio State edge rusher, linebacker to the Jets. Jets will do their due diligence, but coming out of the Combine, there's been not at least yet, any talk of them going in a specific direction. But Reese, a dynamic playmaker, put him in a lot of different spots. That Jets defense needs an overhaul. At 3, David Bailey, edge rusher, Texas Tech to Arizona. Arizona has a need at right offensive tackle, but you don't have to use the number 3 overall pick to fill it necessarily. So here it's Bailey going to Arizona. Jordan Reid at number 4 says Reuben Bain Jr., edge rusher, Miami Hurricanes to the Tennessee Titans. Whatever you might think about arm length with Reuben Bain Jr. being slightly below that 31-inch measurement, which is usually like the sign of a player successful or not successful. But Bain has tremendous intensity. He's got the size. He can handle the run. An elite pass rusher. The word that his interview with the Titans went well at the Combine. And here, Jordan Reid of ESPN says, Reuben Bain Jr. of the Titans at 4. At 5, it's Sonny Styles, Ohio State linebacker to the Giants. Jordan Reid notes the last time an off-ball linebacker went in the top 5 was 2019. Well, it's been a while. But on the flip side, Styles is not your typical off-ball linebacker with the capacity to serve as a defensive back if you need him to. Very versatile and a great showing in Indy at the Combine. At 6, here we go again, Monroe Freeling to the Browns. As Jordan Reid notes here, Freeling's stock has skyrocketed since the end of the season. I think it's a fair assessment. Offensive tackle out of Georgia going to the Browns at 6. At 7, Washington Commanders going with Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. If it happens, Downs will be the first pure safety to go in the top 10 of the NFL draft in 10 years. At 8, Jeremiah Love. If Love is still on the board here, of the Saints would be a really nice destination for him. He's a solid running back, but also a gifted receiver out of the backfield. At 9, I think Love would go to the Chiefs if he's there. I think that would be a strong possibility. But if he's not, Cardell Tate, receiver, Ohio State. What Jordan Reid has here for the Chiefs at 9. At 10, Mansour Delane. I think, considering the lack of franchise tag use, I think edge will be a need for the Bengals, but they could go with a corner. Mansour Delane, one of the very best corner prospects in the draft, going here at Cincinnati to 10. At 11, Jordan Reid says Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle Miami, in Miami with Miami Dolphins. And perhaps if Delane's off the board, that would be the move. Number 12, mock trade. The Jets trade up to get Mekhi Lemon. Wide receiver, Southern Cal. Sure-handed, explosive playmaker. We give a big boost to that Jets offense. At 13, Kenyon Sadiq to the Rams. Isn't that interesting? I mean, Sadiq impressed people at the Combine. People knew he was good, but he really showed out. At 14, Venga Ioane, guard, Penn State to the Ravens. Quite a bit of talk that Venga might go at 14. We'll see what happens in free agency for the Ravens. That might be what they end up opting for there at 14. At 15, Tampa Bay Buccaneers go with Keldrick Falk, edge rusher from Auburn. Keldrick Falk, he's got the size to be out there against the run. Also an elite pass rusher. At 16, Dylan Thieneman. So the Dallas Cowboys, in this scenario, trade up. Or was they traded, these trades? Okay, I guess they traded down from 12 to 16 here. So you trade down, you get Dylan Thieneman, which if you're wanting to go with a safety, you can trade down maybe as long as you're above Minnesota and get him. Thieneman had a great showing at the Combine. And was it a 4.35 40? Really good coverage, really good player. He was good at Purdue, had a good season at Oregon, and here he goes to the Cowboys at 16. This is my reaction to the latest mock draft from Jordan Reid of ESPN. At 17, Jordan Reid says Akeem Mesidor, edge rusher Miami to Detroit. I think if Mesidor, his best destination is going to be a team that is a serious contender this upcoming season, just because of his age. You're not going to have to wait to develop him over time, but he might not have as many years, well, clearly before he hits the age of 30. If somebody's 22 years old and somebody's 25, well, guess who's getting there 3 years faster? But for teams looking to win right now, Mesdor could be that extra oomph to get him over the hump. And so that's the projection here for the Lions at 17. At 18, Florida defensive tackle Caleb Banks to the Minnesota Vikings. That'd be interesting. And again, team personnel moves that are happening or will happen are going to impact needs and potential moves here in the draft. So Banks to the Vikings at 18. At 19, Spencer Fano to the Panthers. The Fano slides, and the Panthers were their predictions all over the place for him. If you say that's best player available, of course, knee injury, Ekwano, that could be serious enough to impact things for this upcoming season and beyond. So here it's Fano to the Panthers at 19. At 20, Avion Terrell, corner from Clemson, going to the Cowboys. So the Cowboys go with Thieneman and Terrell, go with a safety and a corner. 21, Jordan Tyson, Arizona State wide receiver to Pittsburgh. A nice pickup for the Steelers. Big boost at receiver. At 22, Caden Proctor, offensive lineman from Alabama. And the thought would be if the Chargers drafted Proctor, they would have him play guard. He officially weighed in at 352 pounds. He really is 6'7", 6 feet 7 inches tall, not the meme. A massive man, and yet athletic enough where he could legitimately play guard in the NFL and do so well enough to be a first-round pick. That is a need spot for the Chargers. At 23, Caleb Lomu, Philadelphia Eagles. Lomu, a younger prospect. Give him a bit of time, and he should be able to develop into a solid performer at the NFL level. At 24, here's Cleveland going Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver out of Indiana. So you go with an offensive tackle at 6. They come back at 24, you go receiver, and you get Cooper. He's got a lot of people talking coming out of the combine. At 25, Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson. So another thought that the Bears would go D-line at 25. At 26, Georgia linebacker C.J. Allen. The Bills fill a need at linebacker. They could go edge. They could go receiver. They're switching to a 3-4 scheme, and Jordan Reid makes the case here for C.J. Allen to the Bills at 26. 27, San Francisco 49ers, Casey Concepcion. Heard that name linked a lot to the Niners. Concepcion helped his case at the combine, getting a bit better as far as hauling in those passes, fewer drops. Just kind of plagued him at times in his career. But when he's dialed in, he's a special playmaker. Here's where he goes to the Niners at 27. A proposed trade. You like these proposed trades, some of these analysts. So Jordan Reid says the Cards trade up with Houston to get Ty Simpson at 28. I think this sort of scenario is perhaps the most likely for Simpson. I mean, I've heard the whispers about Simpson possibly being a top 12 pick, which after I give it some thought, probably just like that's a sign that whoever's saying that is saying it's not the Rams. The Rams are at 13, but I've also heard it's not Miami. Anyway, I still think the most likely, if it's not a team like the Rams with multiple first-rounders, something like Arizona, they've got a high second, so they can trade back up late first, get that fifth-year option, which you'd want to have if you can get it. And here they get Simpson at 28. And that also jumps the Rams at 29, unless they have ideas of getting Simpson there, which makes it a logical spot to work a trade if they can do it. Houston would have to be up for it, of course. Rams at 29 said, okay, Jermod McCoy, who slides all the way to 29. And I think Jordan Reid shares the same skepticism I have. I mean, look, I know that McCoy's a solid prospect. I've seen his 2024 highlight reels. I know he's a tremendous athlete, but he hasn't run a 40 yet. He's supposedly healthy, but didn't work out at the combine. He's going to have to prove it, or people are going to start dropping him outright from their first-round mock. I mean, just look at Will Johnson last year as the cautionary tale. Now, different player, different year, but something to keep in mind. At 30, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety from Toledo, goes to the Denver Broncos. 6'3" safety. Open up that secondary. up in Denver. 31, Cassius Howell, edge rusher, Texas A&M. Had 11.5 sacks last season against some top-notch competition. Arm length a question for Howell as well, but again, that was something people knew well before the combine. Not a shocker to learn that. So here the Patriots go with an edge rusher, and finally at 32, Seattle Seahawks, Colton Hood, quarter from Tennessee. That's what Jordan Reid says the Seahawks will do there at 32. All right, so that's it for this DKDB update. Be sure to bookmark the DKDB. Update this on a regular basis, daily, not multiple times in a day. Keep checking back. It's going to get more and more interesting as the 2026 NFL Draft grows closer. That's it for this update. I'm your host, Lou Pickney. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.